Hey guys, I am here with lesson 5-1, which is dividing decimals by whole numbers. Make sure that you number your page, get your Cornell notes set up, and put this new page of notes back in your table of contents. And then as soon as you have that all set up, you are ready to get started. Our first thing here, we have our learning target, our LT. Today, I can divide decimals by whole numbers. So here, I know we already wrote this. Ooh, that was thick. I know we already wrote this, but it's just a review of that vocabulary that we already had with yesterday's lesson, but I want you to rewrite it again just so you get used to knowing what is where and what do I need to know. So we have our vocab. Goodness. Oh, that's why that's so thick. Got it. So a review of our vocab. Remember that our dividend always goes in the den. So our dividend is the whole, and then the divisor is the part, and our quotient is the answer. Today we're just going to get started right away, no steps or anything. I'm just going to show you an example because I think that is the easiest way, and then we'll have a rule that we write out at the bottom. So the example that we are going to do today is we're going to do 272.64 divided by the number 32. So this looks different than the whole numbers that we did yesterday because we have this decimal over here. So our rule, when we have a decimal, as long as it's only a decimal in here in the dividend, then we don't have to move it anywhere except for straight up. And we call that, I know it sounds funny right now, you'll understand in a second, we call it raising the roof. So we bring this decimal right up, and it's going to have to go directly above where it was. So we raise the roof. Then as soon as you do that, there is nothing else weird that we have to do. We just do our division as if that decimal wasn't there. So I'm going to take my 32 over here and I'm going to say, okay, how many times does that go into 2? It doesn't work. How many times does that go into 27? It doesn't work. So now we have to see how many times 32 goes into 272. A good way to figure out a number to guess to start with is to use estimating. So instead of 32, I'm going to round that to 30. And I'm going to say, okay, how many times could 30 go into 270? So I have 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240, plus there's extra. So right now I'm at 8, and I'm at 240. And if I did it another time, I'm not sure if it would be able to go in. So let me try 8. I'm going to rewrite it over here. I'm going to do that tiny math problem over on the side. So I'm going to do 32 times 8 and see what I get over here. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3, 8, 16, 24, plus 1 is 25. So we get 256. And now if we added another 32 to that, we have to ask ourselves, would we be over 272? And if we did, we would be. So now we know that my 32 goes into 272 8 times. And then we've already done the math for it. So we know when we take 8 times 32, we get 256. Now we have to set up our subtraction problem here. 2 minus 6, I can't do that, so I have to borrow, and that becomes a 6. This becomes 12, so 12 minus 6 is 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. And 2 minus 2 is 0. Now, 32 can't go into 16, so that's when we start bringing down our numbers here. So now we have 166. Now, again, these are pretty big numbers, so I'm going to have to kind of round and estimate. So let's see here, 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. That gets me close. That's 5 times. So let's over here, I'm going to double check. And I'm going to do 32 times 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus my 1 is 16. So it does go in 5 times, because if I added another one, it would be over. So we're going to put a 5. 5 times 32. We just did the math on that, is 160. And then we're going to have 6 left over there. We have to bring down our last number because 32 is not going to just go into 6. Ooh, and this is going to turn out nice and pretty because 32 goes into 64 2 times. And then we end up with our perfect 0 at the end. So before we move on, we always box our answer. So at the end here, if this is my final answer, I have 8.52 or 8 52 hundredths. Okay, and then this is our only example of this one that we're going to do, but we need to write the rule at the bottom. What was it that we had to do with that decimal? Did we have to move it anywhere? What did we do? So our rule is going to be, if a decimal is in the house, or in the den, we call it in the house, we just raise the roof. We don't have to do anything else. And the reason I say that is because the next example, we have something else that we have to do. But this one, if the decimal is in the den or the house, raise the roof. I might make you guys do a little dance with that one because there's a fun little raise the roof dance that we could do. Okay, so that is that example. We have one more example. You will probably need to go to the next page because I know those take up a lot of space. So go ahead and go to the next page because there's a lot more to write on that one. It's just one more example, but I'll show you right here. Okay, so now this one, instead of just having a decimal in the den as the dividend, we're going to have a decimal in both places for the dividend and the divisor, and I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to do 103.5 divided by, and that's what our other one looked like. It had a decimal in the den as the dividend. This side, though, is going to be 0.45. Now, this one is different because we can never, ever, ever have a decimal out here in the divisor. It just doesn't work in the math world. So what we have to do is we need to get rid of that decimal. And here's how we get rid of it. We are, instead of making this 0.45, we're going to do slide as far as we need to until it's on the other side of the ones place, because now it's 45. So we kind of made that decimal disappear. So since I slid that 2 times, I have to slide this one over here 2 times. So 1, 2, and now my decimal goes there. However many times I slid it over here, I have to slide this one. Now, once I've slid this one over here, I have to still raise the roof, which was our last rule. So I'm going to bring that one up and put my decimal right up there. Now you see this weird, awkward, empty space right here? What we have to do with this, since there's a space with nothing, we're going to fill that in with a 0. Just like we've kind of been doing with our decimal numbers. When there's an awkward empty space, we are going to fill it with a 0. So now that we've done slide, raise the roof, we do it just like the first example on the other page. You divide as if that decimal isn't there. So we pretend the decimal's not there anymore. So I say, okay, how many times can 45 go into 1? Nope. 45 into 10? Nope. 45 into 103? Yep, that'll work. Okay, so 45 times 2 is 90. And if I did another 45, I think I would be over. So 45 is only going to go into 103 2 times. And 2 times 45 is 90. So now I can subtract. 3 minus 0 is 3. 0 minus 9, I can't do that, so I have to borrow. 10 minus 9 is 1. Now 45 is not going to go into 13, so this is where we start bringing down our other numbers. Let's see, 45 into 135. I think that might go one more time than the last one because it's a little bit bigger, but I'm not 100% sure, so I need to try 45 times 3 over here to make extra sure. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. So we did get that 135 that we wanted. 3 times that, 45 is 135. We just did the math on that. Now, a lot of people would see this happy little 0 at the bottom and they would say, I am done. But the problem is we have our 0 over here that we haven't done anything with. See this 0 up here? We still have to use that 0 because I can't have this empty space right here. So I bring my 0 down. 45 doesn't go into 0, and I fill this with a 0. So now my final answer that I have boxed up here is going to be 230, because that decimal on the outside just means that it's a whole number. 230 is our final answer. Awesome. So guys, you'll see all you have to do is follow our rules, whether it's just raise the roof if there's a decimal in the dividend, or slide raise the roof if the decimal is in the divisor also, because we can never ever have a decimal outside. So now our rule on this one is we are going to, if a decimal is on the side, slide, raise the roof. And you don't need to put this on there. If you already did, that's fine. But if a decimal is on the side, slide, raise the roof. And that is our last rule for this one. Don't forget, if you are pre-AP, make sure you are doing your summary somewhere on the page, 1 or 2 sentences of the important things, how you think the process goes, what is going to help you remember what you need to do. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.